Hi everyone. Now you have another voice lesson based on wreck of the Titanic, and this being prepared on demand. Okay, so this is a poem written by Benjamin Peck Keith. Please do study the spelling properly. This may come for 1 mark question. Sometimes they may ask who's the author of the poem The Wreck of the Titanic. So you will have to write the whole name without any spelling mistakes. Okay. So the poem Wreck of the Titanic, as the title itself indicates, is about the massive ship Titanic. You all know that Titanic is a ship, and you might have seen the film The Titanic, which was released in 1997, and the song from the movie was quite popular, and it is still uh, one of the most favorite songs of many people. So the wreck of the Titanic is based on that historical tragedy, that is the sinking of the Titanic on its maiden journey on 14th April 1912. The ship sank on 14th April 1912. The peculiarity of the ship was that ship was the strongest, most luxurious and huge ship built till that date. No one expected it to sink or any danger to occur. So as the history says that the crew members, especially the captain, all were so confident, in fact overconfident, that they did not take enough precautions if any untoward event happened. So when the ship collided with the iceberg, it sank deep into the Atlantic Ocean, and many lives, thousands of lives, were lost. So here you have a poem based on that tragedy, and this poem is about the brave deed done by the crew members of the ship. It's of course not about the love between Jack and Rose. It's about the brave act enacted by the crew members of the ship. So let's go into the poem directly, and I'm reading out from the text. Please do go through the text while I'm reading it out aloud. Here the poem goes. Out of Southampton she swung with the stream, a poem of iron and steel, a sweet dream, and thousands on shore watched her steaming away. The rest, the biggest and grandest of all ships that day. So this is the first stanza. Out of Southampton. So remember, the Titanic began its journey from the port of Southampton. It was moving to Liverpool. So it started its journey from the port called Southampton. So out of Southampton she swung with the stream. She started moving along with the stream. A poem of iron and steel. So the poet is describing that huge, massive ship as a poem. It is being compared to a poem of iron and steel. So beautiful, so majestic that ship was. It was a sea dream, a dream of every sea. So every sea would be proud to have such a luxurious, massive ship. So the poem of iron and steel, and she was a sea dream, and thousands on shore watched her steaming away. Thousands and thousands of people had crowded on the port just to see her move away to Liverpool. The biggest and grandest of all ships that day. So she, Titanic, was the biggest and the grandest of all ships built till that day. Next answer. And the thousands on board did security feel, for no eye saw death, as he stood at the wheel, directing her course to the echoless shore, her first and last haven of nevermore. So thousands on board. There were many people inside the ship as well, on board. They too felt very secure, and they never felt any kind of insecurity or danger. For no eye saw death. Moving by ship poses a lots of threats, lots and lots of danger. So the weather may not be favorable, the sea may turn very violent. So there are many dangers while traveling by the sea. But the people on this particular ship never saw any sort of danger, for they were very sure that nothing can happen to that majestic ship. It was so strongly built. It was the best ship built till that day. And they were also confident because of the captain who stood at the wheel. The captain who stood at the wheel was an experienced man. He was the one who was directing the Titanic to the echoless shore, her first and last haven of nevermore. Okay, so when he is at the wheel, when he is directing the course of Titanic, no untoward event can happen to Titanic. Everything will move on safe and secure. Everyone thought. So moving on to the next answer. She was the last best work of men, and on her first voyage was speeding, when out of the darkness, out of the night, loomed an ominous form of ghostly white. The poet describes Titanic as the last best work of men. And on her first voyage itself, she was speeding, she was going very fast through the waves on Atlantic, because all the climatic conditions were favorable and no one saw any danger ahead, and so it was moving very fast. When out of darkness, it was night and everywhere it was dark, out of darkness, out of the night, loomed an ominous form of ghostly white. Loomed means appeared. Everyone saw suddenly, very quickly, an ominous form, an unlucky form of ghostly white. A white form, a white shaped thing. Everyone saw a white thing which looked like a ghost, and it was a bad omen. And that bad omen was nothing but an iceberg, a huge iceberg. So, ominous form. What do you mean by an omen? There is a word in English called omen, O-M-E-N. It's not amen, but omen. Both are two different words. Omen is a sign. It can be a good omen or a bad omen. Okay. So in Kerala also we have a lot of superstitious beliefs. If we see a black cat crossing across a road, we'll say we have a belief that the purpose or the thing for which we are moving will not happen, will not be successful in that endeavor. So that is a belief, that is an omen. So such sort of ominous form, here the ominous form, we can say that it is a bad omen because the form has the shape of a ghost, and it's a ghostly white form. So it was indeed a bad omen. So out of darkness, out of the night, they saw a ghostly white form. which was nothing but an iceberg, a huge iceberg. Do you know the peculiarity of icebergs? It will be a huge iceberg, but on the surface of the water, you will see only a small portion. From a distance, you will see only a tip of the iceberg. So, it is from this nature of the iceberg that we have the phrase in English, tip of the iceberg. What you have known about me is the tip of the iceberg, means what you have known only a little bit about me. No, almost 70% of the iceberg will be sunk beneath the water. So, only when the Titanic reached closer to the iceberg did they realize the real danger ahead. So, they could not control the movement of the ship. It was really moving very fast, and they could not turn the ship away from the iceberg, and it went directly and hit the iceberg, and it broke into two. You can remember the scenes from the movie. So the Titanic broke into two, and it sank deep into the bed of Atlantic Ocean. That's what happened. So out of darkness, all of a sudden they saw this ghostly white form. So now we know that it was nothing but the iceberg. Now moving on to the next stanza. Please look into your text. It was a towering mountain of ice, gigantic as ever was seen on the North Atlantic. She struck with a shiver from stem to stern, and was rapidly sinking. Also did learn. So, what was that ghostly white? It was a towering mountain, a tall mountain, a high mountain of ice, gigantic. It was very huge iceberg, as ever was seen on the North Atlantic. She struck, Titanic struck the iceberg with a shiver. It a shiver from stem to stern, from front to back. It shivered and was rapidly sinking. The ship sank down very fast. Everyone in the ship learned about that very soon, did know about it very soon. Then Captain Smith, her commander brave, thought not one moment his own life to save, but stood on the bridge calling out to the crew, "Remember your country, be British, be true." So this is the next answer. So what did the captain do? Captain is responsible if anything happens to that ship and the people on the board. So captain is a brave commander. He was a brave man. He never thought to save his life. He was least bothered about his own life. But standing on the bridge, he asked the crew members to be British, to be true. So you are here for your country and for your people. So your first priority should be that. He reminded his crew members. And the next stanza. And England and Ireland and Scotland and Wales proved dare to the word. Their valor never fails. The women and children first was their cry, and every one of the crew stood by. So it is not merely Britain or England, it is United Kingdom, right? UK it is. So all these countries together form UK, England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. All these countries together form United Kingdom. So they proved their mettle to the world. They proved who they are to the world through their valorous deed. Valor means brave. Brave deed, brave action. What was their brave action? That means the crew members, they gave priority to the women and children. They cried out aloud, "Women and children first." Means these people in the Titanic had only a few lifeboats. There were thousands of people inside, but they had only hundreds of lifeboats. And so they were sure that they will not be able to rescue all the passengers. So what they did was they gave priority to the women and children. They at first sent all the women and children to the lifeboats to the shore. Their valor never fails. The valor, the bravery, the courage of these crew members never fails. They sent the women and children to the shore through the lifeboats, and every one of the crew stood by. All the crew members in the ship, they were sure that they will die the next moment, but till their last breath, they tried their best to save every one of their fellow beings. Next stanza. And the boats were lowered and sent away, that cut off all hope save eternity. And the Titanic sank from sight beneath the sea, while her band played, Nearer, my God, to Thee. So, the boats were lowered. Here the boats refer to lifeboats. All the lifeboats were lowered and sent away with people. The women and children were sent away to the shore in that lifeboats. So when all the lifeboats were gone, the people in the boats had no hope save eternity. They will be sure, they were sure that they will face death. They will die. And the Titanic sank from sight beneath the sea. So with all the remaining crew members, the Titanic slowly sank into the Atlantic. And her brave band, the band members, what did they do? They were playing. They were supposed to play, and they played the song, Nearer, my God, to Thee. Thee. Thee means you. Oh God, we are coming nearer to you. So actually the song is usually sung during the funeral time and all. We have a similar song in Malayalam as well. സമയമൃതത്തിൽ ഞാൻ സ്വർഗയാത്ര ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ. So this song is somewhat similar to that. Okay, nearer, my God, to Thee. So her band played that song because they were facing death boldly, bravely, courageously. They were not afraid to die. So it is a terrible moment actually when you have death smiling before you. It really requires a double amount of bravery to smile back at death. So here the poet asks, was there ever a scene so awfully grand as that sinking ship with her playing band? All glory to Smith and the Titanic's men. They bring Trafalgar's heroes to memory again. So the poet is asking, was there ever a scene so awfully grand, so majestic, so beautiful? So it was such an extremely grand scene. The band members are playing the song and the ship is sinking. They should be given a lot of praise and compliments. Who? The crew members and the Captain Smith. So the name of the captain is Smith, Captain Smith. They are the real heroes. They bring to memory, they remind one of the heroes of Trafalgar Square. So Trafalgar Square's heroes, you need a reference there, and you have that in your textbook. Trafalgar's heroes. In your textbook you have a quick reference about the Battle of Trafalgar. So, what is the Battle of Trafalgar? Battle of Trafalgar was a naval battle fought between British Royal Navy and the combined fleets of French and Spanish navies. Okay, in the first half of the 19th century, that is in 1805. So, actually, it was a tough battle. The 27 British ships fought with 33 French and Spanish ships of the line. And the best thing is that the British Navy force won in the end. It was not an easy battle, it was really tough. And those heroes of that Trafalgar had to give up their life, and their brave deed is being compared to the bravery of the Titanic's crew. So the brave act of facing death boldly just for the sake of rescuing the lives of their countrymen is being compared to the bravery of the heroes who fought in the Battle of Trafalgar Square. So in that stanza, I'm going to read out the last line. All glory to Smith and the Titanic's men. They bring Trafalgar's heroes to memory again. And in the next stanza, the poet goes on, continues to compare these men to many other heroes in the great battles. Okay, so I'm going to read out the next stanza. Here it goes. And that charge of the Light Brigade as well, and Jim Bloodsoe's act on the Prairie Belle, and with these down the corridors of all time, the Titanic story shall sound sublime. For never was courage more noble and true than was shown on that night by the Titanic's crew. So, here the poet is comparing their crew members and their bravery to the heroes of Trafalgar, Alamo, Waterloo, and the charge of Light Brigade, as well as to the Jim Bloodsoe's act on the Prairie Belle. You have a brief note on all these battles in your textbook. If you go online, you will get a detailed story of all these things. Anyway, I'll give you a brief description of all these events. The first one is heart-thrilling tale of Alamo, the Battle of Alamo. This battle was fought between the Republic of Texas and Mexico in the year 1836. So this happened in America, and this Battle of Alamo is very important because this is part of Texas Revolution. So during this Battle of Alamo, the people of Texas got independence from Mexico. So that is the importance of Battle of Alamo. So all the heroes who fought for their independence did a very brave deed. So here the Titanic's crew members, each one of them reminded of the heart-thrilling tale, T-A-L-E, tale means story of the Battle of Alamo. The next comparison is being made to the Battle of Waterloo. This is one of the famous battles. It is in this Battle of Waterloo the famous Napoleon Bonaparte was defeated. So the last grand charge at Waterloo, and that charge of the Light Brigade as well. The charge of Light Brigade is also a very famous battle. A few notes on that. The charge of Light Brigade was a charge of British light cavalry against Russian forces during the Battle of Balaclava on 25th October 1854. So this is what is given in your textbook as notes. So there is the light brigade and heavy brigade. Brigade means a troop of soldiers. So under the British Army there are two forces, light brigade and the heavy brigade. They both had two different functions. So the light brigade had mounted light fast horses which were unarmored. The men carried only lances. And on the other side, the heavy brigade had large heavy weapons. They were equipped with metal helmets and had swords for close combat. Combat means attack. Okay, so for major combat or attack, actually the heavy cavalry is the one that is sent. But during the Battle of Balaclava, the commanders sent the light brigade troop, and the opposition was so strong. The light brigade troops were ill equipped to fight with the opposition. They knew this, and the commander had actually given a wrong order. But this light brigade members never went away or ran away. They knew that they are going to face death. They did not have enough of equipments. Still, they obeyed the orders, the wrong orders given by their commander. They fought their enemies very bravely. They lost the battle, but that is history. And their bravery was praised by the 19th century poet Alfred Lord Tennyson in the poem The Charge of the Light Brigade. So here the courage shown by the charge of the Light Brigade is being compared to the bravery shown by the men or the crew of the Titanic. And next one is Jim Bloodsoe's act on the Prairie Belle. Here you have a reference on Jim Bloodsoe in your text. Jim Bloodsoe was an engineer who died while saving the lives of the passengers of a boat called Prairie Belle on the Mississippi River. So he was an engineer and he lost his life while he was trying to save the lives of passengers of a boat called Prairie Belle. So he also is a hero, and the heroic act done by the Titanic's crew is similar to all these things. So I'll read the last stanza once again. And that heart-thrilling tale of the Alamo, and the last grand charge at Waterloo, and that charge of the Light Brigade as well, and Jim Bloodsoe's act on the Prairie Belle. And with these, down the corridors of all time, the Titanic story shall sound sublime, for never was courage more noble and true than was shown on that night by the Titanic's crew. So the last stanza says more about the bravery of these men. It compares the bravery of these people with that of heroes of the world history, and that the courage and the bravery of this people will be remembered forever. this will be remembered on the corridors of time. That's what is said. Titanic, down the corridors of time. When one analyzes the history, the story of Titanic will sound sublime, will sound noble, will sound great, because never was courage more noble and true than was shown on that night by the Titanic's crew. So never before had anyone shown this much courage as shown by the men on board on Titanic. So the story of Titanic will be remembered by all and it will stay forever. So this is the poem, The Wreck of the Titanic, and we have a few figures of speech. In the first stanza, the first line itself, we have a figure of speech. Out of Southampton she swung with the stream. So here she stands for Titanic. Titanic is a thing, but it is being given human quality. So here the figure of speech is personification. Titanic is addressed as she, so it is personification. Titanic swayed with the stream. The next line, a poem of iron and steel. Titanic is compared to a poem, but it is not like a poem, but it was a poem itself. So here the figure of speech is metaphor. Then so these are the major figures of speech. Thus the poem also gives us an insight into the management of a crisis and the need of heroism. How can one handle crisis during a disaster, and how we need heroes, and how the history tells us a lot of stories about heroes. So if you have any more doubts, if you want clarifications, please do call me up, or you can message in the group. Thank you.